What is this war truly about? When women, children, and the sick are murdered indiscriminately. When the country waging the war denies a peace deal, but is willing to bribe a neighboring country to accept the area's citizens. Is this war about rooting out a terrorist threat? Or is it a crusade whose only goal is conquest? Israel is the global world standard for surveillance. All of their security resources deployed to Gaza. How did they still manage to get ambushed? What if it was all part of the plan? What if it was the first domino to fall in a series of events that has led to the entire extermination of a singular group? It's clear as this war continues to wage on and the information war that corresponds with it, the ways that Israel is responding to the world, to cries for peace from Palestine, the efforts that they are willing to go to cover up their lies and deceits about their justifications for their actions. You know, videos of IDF soldiers going into Al Sharifa hospital that they bombed, supposedly a Hamas site, and pointing to these writings on the walls, supposedly of Hamas soldier shifts, and then people who know Arabic translating it as a calendar, just a complete blatant lie about what was on that piece of paper to paint this image of this place that justified bombing and ruthless murder of dozens of people. And, you know, videos of Hamas soldiers being and scenes that were completely doctored and deep fakes, and areas where it's an assumption at best that there is any Hamas presence. No confirmed sightings of the enemy before an attack is waged. And it's becoming painfully evident what this war was always about. It was never about rooting out this terrorist threat. It was about having a just scapegoat, and that's not to minimize the brutality of the initial invasion by Hamas. This isn't to say that wasn't a terrible act of unjust, indiscriminate murder on their behalf as well. But the response, if it was truly about eliminating the terrorist threat, their response would be appropriately waged. It would be a series of tactical, boots on the ground military operations to try and reduce as much as possible citizen death and collateral. They would know, their intelligence would tell them that Hamas was hiding underneath the vast, intricate network of tunnels in Gaza, and they would realize that all of their airstrikes, were futile in the respect that Hamas is underground, and they would carry out boots on the ground operations that most certainly would result in a much larger Jewish death toll than we're seeing right now. But they would view that as a necessary sacrifice to make to root out the real threat. But that's not what we're seeing. What we're seeing is an attempt to forcibly remove 2.2 million people from an area so that it can be returned to the Jewish state. The Jewish state believes that they are entitled to that land, that is bestowed upon them by God, and the Palestinian people have essentially claimed that land unlawfully, and don't deserve to have rightful claim to it. And I think a lot of people are waking up to this. A lot of people realize that this war is a genocidal attempt for that precise aim. And that realization in and of itself is heartbreaking. It is utterly heartbreaking to know that so many people have died and are going to continue to die for absolutely no good reason at all. And that just it just breaks your heart. It just truly breaks your heart. And I wanted to try as best as I could to offer some, in that space of that reality of what is happening, offer some message of hope, some message of positivity, instead of just bitterness and resentment and anger. And I think the words that I might be able to conjure up are not as powerful as examples of Palestinian and Jewish collective solidarity in the face of their tumultuous, divisive history. And there was so for me to do that, I had remembered, I think about a year ago now, I came across this study that was done, and I think it was done in 2021. And it was an experiment done where they took a group of, I think, 15 or so Arab Palestinians, and about 18 or so Israelis. And I think some of the Israelis were also Arab Israelis who were Israeli nationals. And they wanted to test the efficacy of ayahuasca on interfaith, intergroup conflicts and see if this drug is able to create any sense of unity, any sense of feelings of common humanity, dissolving of these rigid tribal allegiances. And what they found was just utterly astonishing. These groups of people who were all together reliably communicated this feeling of not seeing the other as an other. Experiences of Arab men and women singing Arabic songs, and Israelis who have been brainwashed throughout their life to repel any Arabic art, any Arabic culture, the Arabic language, started crying, started realizing everything that they have missed in their life, and the ways in which their perceptions were extremely distorted of what the other side represented. And there were a lot of just really powerful testimonials in here. But I wanted to read one that was given by a former Israeli soldier who was in an elite combat unit. And so this, again, was before this war had started. But obviously, in the past, during past wars, during past, occupations, he experienced, these house calls where he'd, raid Palestinian homes, forcibly remove people from their homes, and he was explaining what this experience with this drug allowed him to do, what it allowed him to see that he didn't see before. I heard him cry. They were all sitting together. Suddenly, the ayahuasca showed me them as a separate unit within us, and they began. Another one began to cry. And it took me automatically to the madness of the pain of a whole people. I could see it. It was clear to me that they weren't like weeping because they remembered a dead aunt or something. They are weeping the pain of their people. And I am connected to that pain. I caused the pain of their people. I began to break. I couldn't stand to hear them crying, and the ayahuasca began showing me so much. I can't describe it visually. Just this crazy pain and hate and crying for the evil they experienced, and it built up and up till there was a cut. It was one of the most powerful experiences I had, in which ayahuasca took me and put me in a situation that seemed quite real to me and separate from the room I was sitting in. I get goosebumps just thinking about it. I saw myself in a jeep on the way to an arrest. I see me entering with my officer, and we close on the house and start making announcements to get the person out of the house. And what happens is that the door opens. We see an entire family sitting in the living room and screaming and banging and someone trying to run. And you just go into the house and catch everyone there, sit them down, try to find him out. In total hysteria and panic, we manage to get him in the car, get out, the arrest is over, and we turn him over to some GSS investigator. And this is exactly what the ayahuasca is showing me. And as it is over, and when we get out of the car with him, there is a cut. And now I'm just sitting with them in the living room, It went back in time. I'm sitting with the family in the living room, and I see them drink coffee, talking and laughing. The grandfather plays with his grandson. They're happy. The TV is in the corner. And everything is good. Then suddenly there is pounding at the door. It was very weird. I don't understand what's happening. I see the guy I'm supposed to arrest running from the room, then the grandmother or someone opens the door, and I see me, like RoboCop or something, with a ski mask. I can see my eyes clearly. I look at me and I really freeze in fear. I feel the heartbreak in this second in this room. All that happened in this room in this instant, and the crazy fear people are feeling. Now I am looking at me. And I can't believe I am the person standing there. I look horrible. In my eyes, I look something from a film about Nazis. I really felt the hate towards me build. I saw myself arresting the guy, leaving, and the door closes. And I stay with them. Broken family whose world has just been destroyed. And I see the little brothers, and it's clear we just raised 3 generations of terrorists who will definitely hate me. And my eyes in that ski mask might be carved for life in their minds as the eyes of the guy who ruined their life. And it undid me completely. Like I'm almost crying now. It was the first time I felt I hated myself. Deeply, I mean. I was angry at myself and hated myself and said, it makes no difference. Israel, Palestine, whatever. I can't believe I did that. Yeah. It doesn't matter, Israel or Palestine. I can't believe I've done that. You know, if just reading that makes me cry, imagine the pain it must feel for that soldier. And yet, so many soldiers aren't granted that opportunity to be able to perceive the other side as human. They are pawns in this greater scheme, unfeeling robots who have been fed this narrative about the existential threat that is not just Hamas, but every Palestinian. And that's deeply ingrained into their psyche, and that eliminates all possibility of empathy and fear, and empathy. And as long as we continue to deny both sides the ability to perceive the other as not an oppressor, but as a victim, as a fellow victim in this interlocking system that perpetuates hate. You know, and obviously I don't think that if you just get enough people in a room together and give them drugs, that it's going to solve this centuries long conflict that is not just religious, it's not just political, it's not just economic, it's all of it. I certainly don't think that will simply be solved if everybody is simply able to empathize. But for the people out there who, from both sides, are angry at the other, who have every reason to be, if you are able to just place yourself in not the will of the politicians and the military apparatus, the worst possible actors in that system, but the average citizen who, like that Palestinian family, is just trying to live a peaceful, joyful life, who's just trying to get on, and now have had that taken away, have had their livelihoods taken away. If you can just have an example, a model in your mind of what it means to be a citizen caught up in all of this, maybe, just maybe, that can alleviate some of the vengefulness in our hearts. Because if we just fight hate with resentment, with bitterness, with retaliatory negative responses, how is that going to solve anything? And I get it. I really do. I really do get that feeling. On a much lesser scale, I have felt that feeling of being wronged over and over and over and over and over again by somebody who's supposed to love me. And it wasn't until I stopped acting out of this vengefulness, this feeling, this gaping hole of this injustice that I felt was perpetrated against me, till I just let that go and realized it was something in the past that I couldn't control. And I just made peace, and I just tried to start living the life that I want to live. So much of that resentment fell away. And it honestly started with an experience of being able to put myself in the position of the person who wronged me and see how lacking in love their life was, and how they were locked into this mode of being that they couldn't escape, and how tragic that was, how much I pitied this person. And I remember just crying, endlessly. I couldn't stop it at that realization, at that fact. And there's this Buddhist meditation technique called a loving kindness meditation, and it's this experience of first starting by granting yourself love and kindness. Saying the mantra out loud: I wish for myself to be happy and free from suffering. And after you've done it to yourself, you say it to a friend or a loved one. You imagine somebody in your life who you're really close with. And then you go to somebody that you don't know, the clerk at the grocery store, the teller at the bank. And then you finish it with saying it to an enemy, somebody that maybe has wronged you, somebody by which you harbor some negative feelings towards, and you say, "I wish for you to be happy and free from suffering." And again, it's not condoning, it's not justifying, it's not letting them off the hook, but it's truly being able to witness somebody who has hurt you as somebody who is also a human, who also deserves to be happy and to be free from suffering. And what I think people find, I've found it, is the most domineering figures in the world who appear to be these villainous characters are the ones who are ultimately suffering the most, because they have to continue acting out of hate, which is brutally painful. And they don't know what it means to be peaceful and be loving and be content. I wasn't planning on doing this, but I wanted to read this quote, or this poem by William Blake, that I think gets to this feeling of this common humanity, this common spiritual essence that resides within all of us. It's called The Divine Image. To mercy, pity, peace, and love, all pray in their distress. And to these virtues of delight, return their thankfulness. For mercy, pity, peace, and love is God, our Father dear, and mercy, pity, peace, and love is man, his child, in care. For mercy has a human heart, pity a human face, and love the human form divine, and peace the human dress. Then every man of every clime that prays in his distress, prays to the human form divine, love, mercy, pity, peace. And all must love the human form, in heathen, Turk, or Jew, where mercy, love, and pity dwell, their God is dwelling too. May we all find the God dwelling in all of us.